Now for our feature story of the day. Michael Saylor is not letting up. Quoting him here from a recent interview. We'll just keep buying. And if I'm lucky enough to get a hold of 10% of the Bitcoin supply, Bitcoin's going to be 50 million per coin. That's right. So let me break this down for you. And the latest from the Giga Chad. Yeah, I mean, as you know, MicroStrategy was the first publicly traded company to adopt the Bitcoin, for their treasury. And they've been crushing it ever since. And I'm going to read you this thread and some other information, as well as some bonus details from Adam Back, the Bitcoin OG himself. So here, this was posted from Swan. A new Bitcoin giant just launched with 42,000 Bitcoin on day one. And that's the company 21. We touched upon on the previous story. Jack Mallers is the CEO, and they have the backing of SoftBank, Tether, and Cantor Fitzgerald, all billion-dollar companies. So this is pretty big. And it's taking direct aim at MicroStrategy. But this isn't just a new stock ticker. It's a global alliance with deep incentives to accumulate Bitcoin at scale, meaning its primary purpose is a Bitcoin acquisition company. So as they put here, they're calling it 21. A purpose-built Bitcoin native holding vehicle, no legacy business, no pivot, no distractions, no shitcoinery. It is not a copycat. It is a direct shot at what MicroStrategy created without the corporate baggage. So here we go. Strategy versus 21. 21 says it can move faster, cheaper, and more efficiently than Strategy. But MicroStrategy has something far more powerful, a 5-year head start, deep institutional gravity, and 328,000 of the biddy, the most of any public company on earth. And that's just the hill they're trying to climb. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Saylor's not letting up. I want to read you this particular quote here. And there we are. He says here in the interview, we'll just keep buying. And if I'm lucky enough to get 10% of the Bitcoin supply, Bitcoin's going to hit 50 million per coin. And he doesn't plan to stop. Not at 5%, not at 7.5%, and not at 10%. The strategy is simple: accumulate forever. Why? It's going up forever, Laura. So why does this matter right now? Because the backers of 21 aren't just investors. They're signaling something deeper, a convergence of sovereign capital, offshore dollars, and Wall Street power all aligning around the Bitcoin. Let's take a deeper look. SoftBank, many of you may have never heard of it. Japan's post-crisis capital engine. It funneled suppressed domestic savings into global risk bets like a national carry trade, and is now channeling the capital into the preload biddy. And not just for profit, but to reclaim the relevance in the dollar-dominated world. So is this another attack against the dollar? Maybe so. Tether is a workaround to the U.S. monetary control. Like the euro dollar system before it, Tether moves dollars beyond the Fed's reach, providing dollar liquidity without U.S. banking rails. It is not the end game. It is the infrastructure for one. And Bitcoin is the exit. Now, Cantor Fitzgerald, a Wall Street firm run by sitting U.S. Secretary of Commerce, Howard Lutnick. It is the bridge between the regulated finance and the emergent monetary rails. When firms like Cantor start building on Bitcoin, it's not a protest, it's preparation. Look at that handsome gentleman right there. Let's go. MicroStrategy versus 21 is a visible battle, but under the surface, capital is reorganizing. The rules are changing, and Bitcoin is the common denominator. This isn't about one company winning. It's about Bitcoin absorbing everything. In a world where monetary order is unraveling and Bitcoin is emerging as a strategic asset, Bitcoin in DC is where the policy and the finance converge. And there you have it, yo. And now some insights that were posted. This one, I believe, was Adam Back. So yeah, this is actually a pretty good post I'm going to read, but it's a little lengthier, so I'll save that for last. Adam Back said corporate buying will send the Bitcoin market to 100 to 200 trillion. Where do you think that would likely send the Bitcoin price? You let me know in the comments. Most companies will move to a Bitcoin treasury, and we're witnessing that in real time as the game theory continues to play out in real time. So yeah, MicroStrategy and other treasury companies are an arbitrage of the dislocation between the Bitcoin future and today's fiat world. A sustainable and scalable 1 to 200 trillion trade front-running hyper-Bitcoinization, scalable enough for most big listed companies to move to the Bitcoin treasury. And this was reposted by Max Kaiser, shout out the High Priest, which caught my attention. He also put the sound of Bitcoin is inevitability. Someone responded, some thoughts behind the 1 to 200 number, or is this more dramatic effect? Adam responded, 2009 Bitcoin addressable market, hyper-Bitcoinization target, buying the biddy or using the treasury strategy to accumulate the biddy, or arbitrage shorting fiat versus the Bitcoin. Now deeper into the spread, the game is rigged for Saylor. Institutional Bitcoin hoarding is a feedback loop that crowns a king. My dearest kitties, allow me to explain the proper implications of the past few developments. Saylor is the apex predator in a liquidity-starved zoo. Every ETF, hedge fund, pension, sovereign wealth fund, practically rushing to get exposure to the biddy is just unwittingly strengthening his position. Ever hear of the land grab? Well, this is the time grab, and Saylor front ran time itself. Pretty deep. Let's dig into the game theory. You can say institutions buying the biddy, but really they're bidding on the float left behind by Saylor's locked-in treasury. The more they buy, the less is available, and the higher the price, supply shocks Senate. The higher the price, the more absurd MicroStrategy's embedded Bitcoin becomes. The more absurd it becomes, the more people buy MicroStrategy as a proxy. The more they buy the MicroStrategy, the more the Saylor equity appreciates without selling a single biddy. And the cycle continues like a well-lubricated Ponzi scheme. But instead of collapsing, it ascends to the moon forever, Laura, because it is the one backed by the God's hardest money. Can I get an amen? Saylor's literally becoming the richest man in the world by being the first to buy the ARK and then selling the deck space to panicking billionaires as the fiat flood hits. What a metaphor. He doesn't need to sell the Bitcoin. He monetizes proximity to his Bitcoin. He wields synthetic equity demand like the WMD, the meta capital exploitation. Exploitation, that is. While BlackRock tries to slice up their sad little ETFs, Saylor's running the only public company in the world that's both a tech stock and a monetary regime. He turned the balance sheet illiquidity into the shareholder goal fever. He gamified supply constraints, turned them into a reflexive asset, and now watches Wall Street outbid itself to enter his temple. This ends with MicroStrategy as the most valuable company on the planet, not because it earns anything, but because it has the highest Bitcoin per share ratio in a world where governments are debasing. And whereas Larry Fink's ETF managers need to hedge macro volatility, they'll also be doing buying calls on Saylor's bags. The whole system is being re-architected around him. He's the Federal Reserve chairman of a parallel financial system that prints no money and yet controls trillions of dollars of capital flow. Say it with me. Recursive scarcity followed by synthetic demand followed by exponential monetization equals kingmaker status. MicroStrategy is the proof of work version of the Berkshire Hathaway in a collapsing fiat simulation. That's right, we're living in a simulation. Saylor is the bridge between the capital and eternity, and everyone else is paying the toll. Very powerful post. Let me know if you agree, disagree, and what are your thoughts surrounding the GigaChad projecting accumulating roughly 10 million, or I should say 10% of the Bitcoin supply and sending the preload biddy to over 50 million per coin. Let me know when I read your comments out loud. Welcome everyone to the Q&A segment of the live stream. And it looks like we're currently at close to 1,800 viewers, so not too shabby. And I'm going to stick around for like a bonus half hour. I only watch this podcast because it is fun to know what's going on. JV has the greatest pod where people are cool, like really cool. So I hang out here. Everyone else in real life is a little boring. Thank you